In almost every culture, in every country, every region of the country even, all over the world, you'll find sweetbread recipes. It's like every culture has their own sweetbread recipe. Well, Appalachia does too. When you see the recipe, I'm going to show you how to make it today, you'll see it's really just a cake. It's kind of what it is. But growing up, a lot of people, you'll hear them talk about eating sweetbread. They remember their mother or their grandmother or someone making sweetbread, and it was a treat that they really looked forward to. It's funny how we tie our memories to food. Of course, in the case of sweetbread, it was something sweet, so it was something to look forward to, probably in a place, at least for Pap, when he told me, when there just wasn't many sweets around. And when his mother would make sweetbread, it was something they all got excited about, you know. But sometimes those memories, is interesting, are tied to things that maybe necessarily weren't that good. Maybe not that it weren't that good, but it was that there wasn't that much, there wasn't plenty like we have today. We live in the land of plenty. In those days when sometimes you had, you know, not much food or had to go without, even those kind of make-do recipes become really meaningful in people's minds as they look back over their memories of food. But today I'm going to show you how to make Pap's sweetbread. It's funny, the day Pap showed me how to make sweetbread, he had made it lots of times before and I'd tasted it. But the day I was writing for the Blind Pig and the Acorn, and I went down when he was going to make it, I said, next time you make sweetbread, let me come and you can show me how to make it. So he did. So if you go to the Blind Pig and the Acorn, you can see photos of his hands and stuff as he made it. But it's funny, I wrote down the directions just on an index card that Granny had. And I guess while he was talking, if you look on the back of it, when I look on the back of it, it's funny, I must have wrote this down because he said it and I thought it was funny or memorable or whatever. So it says, you can hear anything nowadays except meat a-frying in a pan. So I think he was telling me a story about some old man that said that to him, how people didn't cook anymore at home, which a lot of people do cook, we do, so I know you may be the same way. But there are a lot of people that no longer cook, that prefer it's just quicker and easier in their modern day lives to eat out. But anyway, I thought that was funny. I wrote that down. You can hear anything nowadays except meat frying in a pan. So someone had told Pap that and he was telling me about it. Anyway, so how we start, Pap used cast iron pans. A lot of times you'll see people with sweetbread recipes and they use loaf pans or even a cake pan or something like that, but he used cast iron pans, so that's what I do. So I've got two pans. So in the cast iron pans, Pap would put 2 big spoonfuls of lard, and that's tablespoons. And I use Crisco, I don't have real lard, but so I've got 2 and they've melted in each. Then he took 2 tablespoons of butter in each pan, so I'll go ahead and put that in and let that melt. And I need to turn that one down. I've got 2 eggs that I've broke in the bowl, and I'm going to add the milk, 1 cup of milk to it. And just whisk it around, stir it together. Once this is melted, which it pretty much is, I'm going to add most of all of the grease to the milk and the egg. And Pap said he liked doing it like this better because it was just easy. It's 1 less dish to wash instead of melting the butter like in the microwave or in another pan or something like that. So you can see, I'm going to put it in here. Now that I've got the butter in, I'm going to add a cup of sugar. I'm going to also add 2 teaspoons of vanilla, but again, Pap didn't use the teaspoon measuring. He just used a teaspoon out of the drawer. So that's what I'll do. A silverware teaspoon, I should have said. And once that's mixed in, all's left is to mix in the flour. So Pap used self-rising flour, and he used 1.5 cups. Got it right here. And you just stir it until it's smooth, just like you would when you were making any other type of cake. And you could use plain flour if you wanted to and add soda and sody, as Pap and Granny call it, sody instead of baking soda, and baking powder and salt. You could do that. It'd be just fine. And as you can see, it's very similar, the recipe is, to what you would, a cake recipe, a basic cake recipe. Okay, I've about got it smooth. If you didn't want to do it by hand, you could also use a mixer. I just usually mix it up like this, but if it's easier, definitely use a mixer. So now we're going to divide it between the two hot pans. And it'll take about 20 to 25 minutes for it to be done. You know how to test if a cake's done. You can use a toothpick. Usually it pulls away from the edges and it's golden brown. That's how you would tell. But I would just keep a check on it the first time since the ovens vary. But for me, it takes about 20 minutes. So I just got the sweetbread out of the oven. You can see it made 2 layers, so you could ice it like a cake. It's a little thinner than a cake. It doesn't rise up as much as normal cake does. You could ice it if you wanted to. Pap, the way he liked to eat his is with a can of Granny's peaches that she'd put up in the summer. That was his favorite way to eat his. My favorite way is just to cut it right now and eat it. I think I'll take one down to Granny in a little bit and tell her I made her some of Pap's sweetbread. I think she'd like that. Well, we were talking a minute ago about when I was talking about how you use tablespoons and teaspoons from the silverware instead of actually the measuring spoons of tablespoon or teaspoon, made me think of something. So in Appalachia, like this is, some people call this a butter knife or just a silverware knife. It's what you put with your plate, but we've always called it a case knife, and I didn't think anything about that until I started researching. I started the Blind Pig and the Acorn, and then I come across case knife, and I was like, what? Everybody doesn't call that a case knife? But apparently not. Anyway, so if I tell somebody to bring me a case knife, this is what I want, is a knife like this. So it'll be interesting to see, do you call this a case knife? Of course, there is the case pocket knife. I know about those too. My husband carries them, and Pat carried one too. That was kind of their favorite brand of knives. But we also call this a case knife. I hope you enjoyed learning about sweetbread and seeing the recipe that Pat made, and it's really good if you decide to try it. I know a lot of older people have those fond memories that I was talking about, but I have fond memories of Pat making it when I was growing up too. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I hope you will. I hope you'll share this video with your friends and neighbors, but mostly I just hope you'll drop back by often as I celebrate Appalachia.